whatever you want to say to some closed group, well, anybody can get in, but it's a membership group of people who are really trying to do the stuff you're talking about. And most of them are, I would say, concerned to different degrees about when somebody's going to show up at the door and, try to force vaccinate everybody or take everybody's temperatures and steal your kids, which they're allowed to do now, supposedly.
So you really want to talk about what they can do right now in an acute situation, right? With these.
Well, I'm leaving it open and just giving you an idea. Whatever you think would be valuable to a group of people that's really, listening to you seriously and saying, they're dealing with all the stuff that you talked about on the show. Okay. Whatever you want to focus on, but a lot of them are thinking about what's the next step and what do we do in these forced situations where, maybe you decide you don't want your kid to go to school because you figure out what they're doing at school and you say, wait a minute, why would anybody do that if they care about their children? But if they don't, CPS can come and take them. And
yeah, well, they can't take them as long as they're enrolled in school, as long as they're not truant,
What makes the difference if you're not attending but you're enrolled? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, you meaning all schools are offering online?
Okay, so at least they can do that for now.
Right, as long as they at least do online. I know how horrible that is. Yeah, I think so. As far as when it comes to, let's go through the things. When it comes through the mask wearing, because we know that's very dangerous for kids. We know
right.
It's dangerous for all of us. If you can get your doctor to write a note because you've pinpointed a reason, if you have a child with special needs, you can use the cognitive disability. That's easy.
Okay.
And those children are protected by federal law.
Right.
And a lot of school districts get more scared when they're dealing with a child that's protected by federal law than they are by just a regular gen ed student by state law. And if you could get your doctor to write, a lot of these just mainstream doctors are willing to write a mask exemption for a special needs child, which is shocking because they don't do other things for them, but they're willing to write.
Yeah, I mean, they should write a mask exemption for everybody, right?
I agree. So get them to write, and if you absolutely can't get them to write an exemption and you need to go to work, then get them to request to wear a face shield instead of the mask, because maybe your child won't mind the shield because they could see through it, but at least your child can breathe oxygen in all day.
That's a big advantage, yeah.
Yes. So if you have to go to work and you cannot afford to stay home and do the online learning, which I guess would be the preference, and the reasoning it's the preference is even though you don't get the socialization, what you do get is they're not going to be smelling toxic chemicals because God knows what they're cleaning these schools with. A lot of these schools are shutting down on Wednesdays. They let the kids do hybrid Monday and Tuesday for, say, last names beginning A through M, and then N through Z is Thursday, Friday, and they deep clean Wednesday because somehow there's no problem going to school Monday and Tuesday, but Wednesday they need to clean.
So the translation is they deep poison on Wednesday.
Right. So in my son's case, they have the special needs kids go to school Wednesday because they don't want them to miss a day, but they have no idea that it's so dangerous for my son to be in the building if they're deep cleaning with these. I consider bleach to be a very dangerous chemical alone, just to breathe in if someone's using it.
That's right.
And these other things, the ammonia in the blue window spray, I mean, all that, and they're probably using much worse than that.
Yeah, they get the industrial strength stuff.
So it's so scary. So first thing would be, if you can afford to be home, that you're working from home, keep your child at home, even though they're missing the socialization. You can go on those websites next door, which connect you to people in your neighborhood, and maybe you can find like-minded adults that are also doing online. And it doesn't matter if they're doing online because they're scared of COVID. See if they're willing to have your child meet them at a playground or take a hike outside, and you could do socialization or have them over in your backyard if you're able to. But I prefer online so they don't have to wear the masks, they're not around the industrial chemicals, and they're not staring at people in masks all day.
Well, and meeting them at a playground, and I'm watching the time because I don't want to make you late. Some of those playgrounds are actually subject to mask laws now, right?
I haven't seen it be an issue outside. I haven't personally, and I'm in a pretty strict area right now. But outdoors, nobody's saying anything. The only time I see something, I used to love going to a farmer's market, Richard, because it's so natural. You're at the farm.
Right.
It's great to buy things that have just been picked. But this particular one, they make you wear a mask, and they have stickers on the ground outside.
Wow.
And it's so, I don't even like to go. A lot of times I make my husband go because I just find it so juxtaposed. I can't deal, you know?
Yeah.
So they don't do it, so which is good. So you can have them take a hike with a child or just play outside. Or you do things with them outside. Go for a bike ride, go take a walk in the woods, take your shoes and socks off. Yeah. But that's what I say about the school. But if your child has to go to school because you have to put food on the table, you have to work,
right?
Real life does get in the way. They do temperature taking. If at all possible, ask the school officials or the person doing it, can you point it at my child's wrist? There's not enough literature to support, and they ignore literature about, touching the pineal gland with the infrared gun. Just think, where's my child psychologically? Is there anything you could just point it at their forearm or the wrist? Or what I used to do at my daughter's camp, I asked the woman if I could bring my own ear thermometer. And she would go to the car, because they go to the car before the child exits, and she would let me just take my ear thermometer that I kept in the car, and I'd put it in her ear, and I'd show her the temperature.
What do they do if the temperature is not acceptable to them?
Well, then they don't let them go to school. But honestly, when your child has a temperature, they don't look right. They're
right. Right.
They shouldn't. I wouldn't want my daughter going to school. Forget about the fact that she would infect other people. I'd be afraid of a secondary infection.
Okay. The other thing they have already set up is a protocol if they ever test kids during the day in school and they're supposedly positive, they can shut down the school and isolate the kids in a remote location.
And by the way, that's one of my greatest fears. And what I also am fearful of, there's a lot of laws. New York is terrible. Cuomo has put in like 7 new vaccination laws. One of them is that they can vaccinate the children 10 years of age. They're allowed to give consent, and they'll coerce.
Oh yeah, and they cannot tell the parents or anything.
And they cannot tell the parents, and they could do it for all sexually transmitted diseases, hepatitis B, HPV. And there's a lot of parents that, they don't want someone giving a vaccine without their knowledge, because then if they see their child acting funny, how would they know that's not a vaccine reaction and get the medical attention? And so that scares me so much, the quarantine. The good thing is my daughter and I have figured out that her computer at school, she has access to something called Google Hangouts, because a lot of them use Google Classroom. And as much as you and I probably don't like Google, the fact that she has Google Handouts means she can send me a text. So I have on my phone right now the Google Hangouts app, so that God forbid there's ever something crazy going on, I'm going to show up at school in 1 second, because she's going to text me. So that's another thing. Make sure your child knows, don't comply. If something's happening, I've given her permission that if they're going to mass vaccinate or do something crazy, I've told her to go and leave, exit the school through a window or a door and find some, just leave.
Exactly.
So that's another thing. You've got to empower your children to be free thinkers. They need to know that if they feel danger in their gut, that there is danger.
Yeah. So it's opposite training from, in emergencies, obey the authorities. Your training is in emergency, escape the authorities before they get you, right?
Right, before they do something that I can't fix.
Exactly.
So that's another thing. I just want to make sure we've covered. So we've covered the mask, the temperature, the cleaning products. And that's why another thing is, we don't know what they're being exposed to at school, cleaning products that are, their desks are clean. So, you know, detoxing them with certain herbs and keeping their livers clean so they're functioning well. You know, like my daughter runs out the door in the morning, so I put a vitamin B patch on her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, just like whatever things you can do to boost their immune system to keep them. And again, that's probably a whole nother show.
Yeah, we could do another show. What about the psychological programming? Like, you know, in California and some other places, they have active programs to teach kids that they're probably not the right gender and that their body should be changed.
And I think it's the vaccines that are causing that when you're, you know, putting DNA in from the opposite sex. I mean,
that part, chemicals like atrazine do that too, and they're all over the place. Parts per trillion, some of them.
So just be thoughtful, I think, is what I would tell parents, of to really go through in their mind, if there's something that you can do something about, like get a doctor's note, then just do it. Even if the school board says no, at least you've tried. At least you've been aware of something. So, you know, don't be afraid to be the lone sheep out there causing a stink, you know?
Well, you might want to get involved with the school board or whoever's deciding what's going to happen in that school too.
Great advice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we could keep talking a lot. I hope we get to continue pretty soon.
Of course. Always. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak to, especially your viewers, like-minded people.
It's fun. Yeah. A treat for us. So, okay. Good luck with the rest of the day, and we'll talk to you in a while.
You too. Thank you so much, Richard. Bye.
See you soon.